Hello and welcome to this India Today special. We're joined by a special guest. The British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab is in town on a 4-day official visit. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Raab.
Pleasure.
You come to India at the end of what's been a troubling and traumatic year in many ways for the world. Reports now suggesting a new COVID strain, London likely to go into another lockdown. What's the biggest challenge you see in this turbulence of a post-COVID world in a way?
Well, certainly internationally, one of the things that it's taught us is that we need to cooperate more closely together. We've had brilliant cooperation with our Indian friends and partners. I've dealt with Dr. Jaishankar throughout, whether it's on repatriation of our nationals or procurement or paracetamol. And actually, we need to take that to the next level. And so if I look at the United Kingdom as we come out of not just COVID restrictions, hopefully with the development of a new vaccine, but through the transition period from Brexit, we see a world of opportunities, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. With India and wider partners in the region, there are huge opportunities. We've got to mitigate the risks of things like COVID, but also grasp the opportunities.
Presumably one of those areas of cooperation will be vaccine development, because you've got the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine being developed in the United Kingdom, but also by Serum Institute in India almost simultaneously. And there's a lot of excitement over that. Do you see vaccine research, manufacturing, development, the kind of areas where Britain and India can cooperate in the months ahead?
I think there's huge potential in that area. India is a great tech science power. The UK has got great research facilities, but also we've got the regulatory and manufacturing know-how as well. I think there's huge opportunities, not just in COVID, but more broadly. And as high trust partners, I think there's a wide range of opportunities for diversifying supply chains, whether it's in the field of vaccines or PPE, or even in the telecom sector. And that's one of the things that we talked about today.
Because, you know, the fears being expressed at one level in India is, will the Western nations, the EU nations, the United States monopolize vaccines? And what happens to India, whose demands are far greater given the size of our population?
Well, I understand that concern. We're proud that our researchers are amongst the leading pioneers of the vaccine. We're pleased that we've been able to roll out the Pfizer vaccine, but we also recognise our duty to the world. I've been talking to Dr. Jaishankar about this today. We've been big supporters of Gavi, which raised nearly $9 billion to allow equitable access to the vaccine right across the world. We've been a big supporter of the COVAX AMC facility, again opening up to lower and middle income countries, and we don't think that anyone is safe until we're all safe. So we share that instinct with people here in India, and we want to work to broaden the access to the vaccine.
You know, a key aspect, of course, apart from the vaccine angle, is trade. You are also, in a way, moving into a new world, a post-Brexit world. What opportunities do you again see in an uncertain environment where COVID has hit both the UK and the Indian economy? Do you see this as an opportunity, in a sense, in a crisis?
Well, both sets of economies, the global economy needs a shot in the arm, and opening up trade, deepening trade relations can really help build on that. Obviously, for the UK coming to the end of our Brexit transition, this is an opportunity. And I talked with Dr. Jaishankar, and I look forward to talking to your Prime Minister, about the huge range of opportunities, whether it's in digital and data through to manufactured goods, including agricultural products as well. So right across the board, I think there's an opportunity here for Indian businesses and consumers, for British businesses and consumers.
You know, the other key area, defense and a strategic partnership. I mean, the shared concerns that you mentioned in maintaining stability, for example, in the Indo-Pacific region, it comes at a time of Chinese expansionism, India's concerns about China's influence in the region. Does Britain share those concerns?
I think we do see the concerns. If you look at the South China Sea more broadly, we see not just individual challenges to the rules-based system, but also the question of regional stability and the question of for example, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea coming under challenge. We've been a long-standing maritime power, and we look forward to, and we've been talking about working more to deepen our maritime security cooperation, including in the Indian Ocean, but also more generally across the region. I think that is another very concrete, tangible area where we can work together. But also you've got emerging threats, things like cyber, misinformation. Again, in all of those areas, as two tech science powers, I think there's a great opportunity for us to deepen our collaboration.
The other area is climate change. You're going to be hosting the COP26 in Britain next year. Is there again a broad consensus that these are two countries committed to the Paris Agreement and will work together in a way on climate change?
I think we are committed to the same goals. The real challenge is bringing countries together. And I had a good conversation with your Environment Minister as well as Dr. Jaishankar about this. We've got to try and shift the dial on climate change for our children and for their children. And actually, if we look at the different views around the world, I think India and the United Kingdom are well placed in partnership, with respect, listening very much to the concerns that India has. We're in a position to not just drive the innovation that will cut climate change and tackle climate change, but also create the jobs of the future on both sides. So there are exciting opportunities here. And what's really important is we have steady, consistent discussion, dialogue and consensus building between now and November.
A lot of Indian students, Mr. Raab, are looking at the United Kingdom as a destination for study and research. About 30,000 Indian students at the moment as we speak study in the United Kingdom. The fear is, in a post-Brexit UK, will UK remain as open and inclusionary in a way that will welcome students? Is there a fear that a post-Brexit world could be very different?
I think it's already proving good news, for example, if you're an Indian student or an Indian businessman or woman. If you look at what we've done, we've said that we're ending free movement for those just coming from Europe, which puts greater restrictions on those coming from the rest of the world. And we're saying actually we want a meritocratic open system which looks at the contribution that people can bring. We know Indian students, Indian workers bring huge benefits. We value their contribution. That's why we introduced a points-based immigration system on students and the ability to come after you've studied and worked for 2 years. We've already made those changes, and I think it's something like half of all the skilled visas that are taken up in the UK are by Indian people, and we welcome that and we value it.
Two news points that I want to come to. One is the farm protests that have been gathering headlines across the world. There is a concern in India that the protests in world capitals, including in London outside the Indian High Commission, included the raising of pro-Khalistani slogans. Will Britain allow its soil to be used for anti-India activities, was the concern.
Well, look, your news is our news. We've got such a large Indian diaspora in the UK that whenever something interesting, contentious or controversial happens, of course it has a knock-on impact in the UK. Look, we know that the reform agenda in the agricultural sector is for the Indian government and the Indian people to determine. Equally, we've got like India, a proud tradition of democratic debate and protest, and we protect that and preserve that as well.
Because what we gather is a Khalistani terrorist, Paramjit Singh Pamma, who was on the National Investigating Agency's most wanted list, was also spotted raising those anti-India slogans at a terror-funded, Khalistani-funded rally in London. So our concerns are, the security and whether what's happening there in London could influence, in a way, the situation in India. Would Britain take tough action?
Well, look, in terms of, as I said, we've got peaceful protest. There's a long-standing liberty in the United Kingdom, but there's never any excuse or any succour for those that either incite violence or foment terrorism or any other harm, whether it's in the United Kingdom or to India. So we draw that line very clearly, and that's what a democracy governed by the rule of law should do.
The other news point is that of the extradition of Vijay Mallya, the industrialist. 10 months have passed since he lost his appeal against deportation at a London High Court, but he still hasn't come back. There's some talk that he may apply for asylum. Where does Britain stand on it?
Well, we've got an independent judicial system. There is still some legal points outstanding, but we want to see those expedited as soon as possible.
So are you all clear that you will not, in a way, be a roadblock should the legal process be over? Would you grant a Vijay Mallya asylum? Is that a possibility?
Well, that's done by an independent legal process as well, but what I can assure you is there won't be any political interference in that process, and we want to see it brought to a conclusion.
Let me, in conclusion, look at the good news that's coming out, which is that your visit is a prelude, now we are told, to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson coming in as our Republic Day guest next month. How do you see that? Do you believe that that is part of this process of consolidation of the relationship between the two countries, Boris Johnson, Narendra Modi together at Republic Day?
Well, it's a great honour for my Prime Minister. He's delighted to accept it. I do think it is an opportunity, as we've left the transition period from the EU, to look at globally, lift our horizons, deepen our ambitions, and India is a fantastic example of that, a linchpin ally and friend that we can really strengthen the relationship from trade to security and as a force for good in the world. And of course, we've in return invited India and your Prime Minister to join our G7, the G7 that we are presidents of next year. And if you look at that, COP26, a whole range of other issues and areas, as well as the bilateral relationship, I think it's going to be an exciting and an optimistic year after a pretty difficult one in 2020.
Well, let's hope that 2021 brings better news than 2020. Mr. Raab, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.